Welcome. I'm Ken Rollins.
And I'm John Merrill.
All right, Joe, it's good to be back here, John. It's been a long time since I've seen you. Last time you were Secretary of State, you have retired.
Well, it wasn't because I wanted to. It was because it was term limited, my friend. And, you know, it is what it is, so we have to try to find another way to contribute in a positive way throughout all of our communities and the state as a whole.
Did you hear the thing on the street that we were trying to get extended for you to stay another 8 years?
I did, and I was so appreciative of your efforts.
We had a thing going. We were about to get in the streets with signs. But how does it feel not being a public service now?
Well,
it feel any different?
There's a few things that are different. First of all, I'm not getting as many telephone calls as I've been getting, and I don't wake up to a number of text messages or phone calls that need to be returned. And I don't get near as many calls after work is over. And those are all things that are new to me for the last 30 years, not just because of my service as Secretary of State or my time in the legislature, but also my time with the Tuscaloosa County Board of Education. So from 2000 and, well, really going back from 1994 to today, that's pretty much been the way it's been for me.
Well, the one question that burned in my mind was there won't be all 67 on the end of your signature anymore.
Well, now I'm not going to say that.
Why?
Because we're going to continue to visit all 67 counties if our schedule permits, because one of the things that we want to do with our company is we want to contact and visit with all 464 municipalities throughout the state and all 67 counties. And in order to do that, you've got to be in those locations. And so we've already been to more than a dozen counties already, and we've had several dozen visits right now. So in order to continue that trend, that's one that's going to be hard to break.
I want to give a heads up to my people out there all over Alabama that he's now working for one of the fastest growing, fastest moving companies in the world, Wagoner. And so I guarantee you he'll be at your office before long. So look for John. You won't be losing him just because he's no longer Secretary of State. John, a question. What would you think, I put you on the spot here, what was the greatest accomplishment you had while you was in office?
Well, Ken, that would be debatable depending on who you ask. But I would say the thing that has meant the most to me is our ability to be able to help people solve their problems to their satisfaction. But as far as accomplishments that people could point to, I would say setting new standards for excellence in the area of elections, where Alabama's been recognized as the #1 state in the union for election integrity, transparency, and accountability for the first time in the history of the state. Been recognized by 3 national entities: Concerned Women for Good Government in Washington, D.C., Heritage Foundation in Washington, D.C., and the University of Southern California in Los Angeles, registering more than 2.2 million new voters in the 8 years that I was in office, having more than 3.7 million registered voters for the first time in the history of the state. Those things took place under my watch. One of the things that has impressed a lot of people that regular folks don't know about is not just the success that we had with the administration of our 46 elections that I had to monitor while I was the secretary, but in the area of business services, where we started in the office with 49 employees, and yet they were behind 7 to 9 months on business filings. Mm-hmm. But when we left office, we had 35 team members, and we had for 6.5 years provided that service for the same day with 15 less employees, because we went from 34 to 35 right there at the end as we were getting ready to depart. And then last but not least, saving $3,133,119.95 cash money since I've been the secretary. And
saved it.
Yes, and also we had removed ourselves from the general fund as far as an appropriation was concerned. So we weren't receiving any resources from the state. All the money that we were using to operate the office of the Secretary of State was self-generated.
People don't realize how important that is because I serve on the State Board of Veterans Affairs, and every elected official can look down and see where the money is, who's got some, who don't have some. Well, the Alabama Department of Veterans Affairs always has money because we've got a tax that comes from the widows, Civil War Widows Fund, that comes from ad valorem tax. It comes from your house. If you're buying a home or whatever, you got a property tax. We get a half a meal, and it comes all the time. And when they were trying to redo the prisons, Alabama couldn't come up with the money. The only anybody that had any money was us.
Right.
And I'd sit here at this camera and I'd poke my finger at at our Senator Dale Marsh, and I'd shake my finger. Don't you take our money? Don't you put our money to take care of them sorry prisoners? Don't you let the veterans go? And we got in a bad time, me and Dale, and we made up for it later. But they were coming for $50 million out of our Veterans Assistance Fund. They see where the money is. And when you're saying you didn't take any from anybody, they don't look for your money because you're not. But if you show up a bunch,
yes, sir,
they'll try to figure out how to take it away.
That's right, no doubt.
They always come in, and they're doing it to us right now. So we have to be careful because we're building a new veterans home, $70 million, something like that. Started off at 50, but boy, lumber and everything. We got right in the middle of the Biden.
Yes, sir.
Everything blew up on us. And if lumber was $20,000, now it's $40,000, and it was ridiculous. And we got to go to a break here.
Yes,
they got to make money. We're talking about money. That's what we got to do. We're going to go to a break, come back. We've got more brainstorming. Listen to us. And welcome back to Brainstorming. I almost said veterans issues because I do another show again. But anyhow, welcome to Brainstorming. This is former Secretary of State John Merrill and myself, and we're going to be talking about John. I want to discuss. We didn't get into much of our last show, but I want to talk about national news. Things are hot topics out there, and let's start with some that one of the hottest thing going is something that affects you and me and all of us, the immigration thing.
Absolutely.
Situation. And it affects the families, children, drugs, and all the things that's going on. What's your
Well,
thoughts
in all
on
aspects of life too,
Yeah.
Ken, and that's one of the things that's a major concern for all of us, because whenever we have immigration issues, when the immigration policy of the United States is not actually under control, it puts all of us at a deficit, whether that deficit is related to education, whether it's related to health care, whether it's related to social services, whether it's related to criminal activity and law enforcement. It puts all of us at risk each and every day.
Yeah, and I've heard people say, well, they don't work the good jobs, they don't take the good jobs and all that stuff, but that's not talking about the health care that they're provided free gratis that the government pays for. They don't take into consideration. Some of them staying in motels. I'm talking, look at $1,500 a week in some of the places in New York. So, yeah, we send them up there. But they're living in hotels, and that's just who's paying for that? And that comes out of the money that's supposed to go for the city, that's supposed to take care of the roads, the streets, and things for the citizens. And then here come a million people from somewhere else, and it affects people more than they think it does.
Well, Ken, I also think it's important to reiterate, I don't know anybody that does not want any person from the world to come to the United States. Anybody that wants to come, we want to welcome them, but they need to come the right way, and that's the thing that's so very important. And if you don't like the immigration laws, we need to change the immigration laws. We cannot just change it because we think that the policies that we have and the laws that we have are outdated. We have to make sure that people are abiding by the laws, that they're adhering to the national concerns that we have related to immigration, related to full employment, related to opportunities for people who are not from our country to come here and to participate in our way of life, and to make sure that if they come here, they're coming here with the idea that I want to be an American, and all the things that are a part of that discussion.
And I'd say all they got to do is just go back and look at the Trump policies, because he took it. They were talking about what a mean person he was. You look at what they're doing. I mean, they show the pictures now. It's real, and not counting the other part of the rapes, the fentanyl, the drugs. And I heard on it that what came out last year was enough to kill all the people in the United States 13 times.
Oh my gosh. You know, it's really so sad when we think about the different things that are introduced and that will happen related to illegal immigration. It's so far reaching, it's hard to get a handle on the whole picture, Ken. And that's the thing that's so frustrating for all of our people as they evaluate what can I do individually when it comes to trying to fight illegal immigration. And one of the things that our people are reluctant to do, and I have discovered this, is if they identify a particular need or a particular area where something is occurring, they're reluctant to report it. And so if it's not reported, it can't be investigated by INS agents. And if it's not investigated by INS agents, then it can't be addressed. And so those people are going to be able to continue to live where they're living, and they're going to be able to continue to do what they're doing, whether it's illegal or illicit activity. And we also need to understand that whenever we see that, it's incumbent on us as citizens of the United States, residents of the state of Alabama, and our particular communities as a whole, to report those things. And the people at INS, the people with your local law enforcement, they can protect you, they can protect your family when you're trying to share that information, but they will also guarantee that they're going to be able to have information that will help them prosecute these individuals and make sure that they are abiding by the law.
Well, you'll remember this, and you got contacts with Cleveland County, but this is a situation where a illegal immigrant was selling drugs over here at Home Depot. He ended up going to prison for a few years, and then when he got out of prison, they sent him back to Mexico. Well, within days, he was back in Oxford, Alabama, where he procured an AK-47. Now, 2 days out of there, he got him an AK-47 and a vehicle, went to Cleveland County, shot his 2 brothers and killed them, shot at his wife, shot at his 18-month-old daughter, and ended up in a chase that ended up outdoor of the studio here. And they shot Jackie Stovall, our Oxford policeman. And this guy was only free for just a day or so, but he was able. Could you go find an AK-47 like that? Just,
I wouldn't even know where to start
there you
looking.
go. Ain't it something? And the people out there that's watching us, they're not thinking about how this open border situation affects all of it. And he just turned right around. They released him. Next day later, he's on his way back here, and and he did some damage and tried to kill his wife and some others around here. We were watching it play out. It's awful, man. This immigration thing has got to stop. Got too many arrows shooting out there. So we got to go to a break. We'll come back. We'll talk more to talk about, a lot of it. So get you a pen. And welcome back to Brainstorming America, and we're covering America and Oxford and Anniston, Alabama. And I'm here with my friend, Secretary of State, formerly Secretary of State, John Merrill. And John, that question I want to ask you personally is the 2020 elections. All the stuff that I heard, I stay watching Fox News all the time. And I watched everything that happened in that, from the Arizona situation to the Georgia situation. Everybody talked about the cheating. I saw the guy delivering the boxes somewhere in the middle of the night. I saw all of that stuff playing out. What was your thoughts about the alleged cheating and the non-alleged?
Ken, look, there's no doubt there were issues in several states, the ones that you mentioned, Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Iowa, Michigan, Nevada. There are so many states that we could mention where there were irregularities, inconsistencies, improprieties that were introduced, vulnerabilities that were exposed. Now, the thing that we have to take a great deal of comfort in is that none of that happened in the state of Alabama. But what we have concentrated on for the last 2.5 years is working to correct the issues that were introduced in those states in question. And the legislative bodies in those states have given that some attention. I had the privilege to chair the National Commission on Election Integrity to work on correcting those issues that were so very, very important to all of us, because whenever one state is negatively impacted, all states are negatively impacted, because it results in a lack of confidence from our people. And we don't need that. We don't want that. And we have to make sure that we remove that whenever the opportunity is presented to us. But you also may want to know whether or not there were enough inconsistencies, improprieties, irregularities, or vulnerabilities exposed that resulted in the lack of the re-election options available to President Donald Trump. We can't speak to that. Nobody can speak to that intelligently, because you don't know exactly what occurred in each location and how those votes may have impacted the final result in the Electoral College, which actually determines who is elected or re-elected as President of the United States.
Well, I would have discussions with people regarding that, and I just said, put yourself in we're all taught, adults are taught, if you hire a lawyer, listen to the lawyer, because that's what they're trained for. You don't try to outlaw your lawyer. If the lawyer tells you A, B, and C, don't do A, D, and E. Go to what the lawyer tells you. And Trump had all kinds of lawyers giving him advice. I don't see how in the world the man survived all that, because he had two pulling this way and two pulling that way, and they had their own take on what was happening. But as I saw it, there were so many different types of cheating as was alleged. And so what are some of the ways that people do cheat?
Well, Ken, look, but one of the things that we have to remember, too, is what we saw with the results of the election challenges that occurred after the 2020 election is that the president had surrounded himself with people who were friends of his and people who were supporters of his to represent him in legal matters. Unfortunately, the people that were actually representing him were in many cases and instances not qualified to serve in those roles. We have a lot of election attorneys in the United States that have had challenges before, that have resulted in corrections, that have resulted in people being removed from office and other people being placed there because of the results that were challenged being overturned. But I love Mayor Rudy Giuliani, but he is not an elections attorney.
Right.
If you've got Christian Adams, if you've got Hans Van Spakowski, if you've got Ben Ginsberg, a number of noted, successful individuals who are recognized as key leaders and attorneys in the area of election law, election integrity, then those are the people that you need to hire, and those are the people that need to be representing you. And if you have anything less than the best, then you're going to have a major problem, and that's what ended up happening with President Trump. I've told this to many people before, and I'll reiterate it again today. If George Walker Bush had had the same team representing him that Donald Trump had representing him, then Albert Gore would have been your president for 8 years.
Yeah, absolutely. The people wouldn't remember that, but I just knew that we voted. We vote now, seems like, for months at a time.
We do, and that's a problem and a concern too. Yes, sir.
We used to have a thing called Election Day.
Yes, sir.
And not that long ago. I mean, this is not something that's back antique.
That's right.
But we used to vote on a.
Well, and we don't believe in election season. We don't believe in election month. We don't believe in election week. We believe in election day, and that's what we want to see return to.
I remember in the military, we was overseas, and they got us ballots way before time. We had to get it back by election day.
Yes, sir.
Remember that? I said election day.
That's right.
And they started bringing them out. You can go down by the pine tree, and there's a box hanging on it, and you hang them in there, dump them over in there. You know, it's
yes, sir.
Really. I don't know how you did that. Why did you get a call from Trump? Because Alabama was doing it so good. Did you get a call from him?
Yes, sir. And as you know, I've had several meetings with the president, several conversations with the president. Of course, and I've shown you before, we have each other's cell phone number. And I think it's important to note that he wants people around him. He wants people that want to work with him, that are interested in making sure that things are run right and well, that you're following established state and federal laws when it comes to election administration. And I don't think anybody thinks that's too much to ask.
Yeah, well, I said a long time ago, if you was suppressing the vote, you're doing a bad job at it. And speaking of him, you brought me a pen back from Mar-a-Lago. You don't have much trouble that's caused me, because people always, when they see it, I have to hand it to them so they can see Mar-a-Lago on there. And as soon as they get it in their hands, they want to keep it. They want
Yes,
to hang
sir.
on to it.
Yes,
So
sir.
I've had some, with my daughter for one.
Yes, sir.
So I don't know. I'm going to try to keep it, though, because I love it. And I was going to ask you, like, I made myself some notes there. How did the cheating happen? Examples, if somebody was cheating, you went into some of that.
Well, but there's a number of things that occurred. One of the things that I really have introduced here before but haven't talked specifically about is the commingling of ballots. That happened in Pennsylvania. And whenever you have ballots that are separated, whether absentee ballots or early voting ballots in some states, whatever it happens to be, if you put those ballots together and the commingling of ballots, you can't keep them separated, and so you don't know what you're investigating, or you don't know what you need to address if you don't have them separated the way they should be according to best practices.
Well, I have never voted a write-in vote, but this past year, I had a problem, a medical problem, and I said, I'm going to take advantage of this. I got me a ballot from Calhoun County, and I got them
Voted absentee.
absentee, and I
Yes,
got
sir.
a phone call. Did you get your ballot? Yes, sir, I did. Thank you. And I filled it out, and I sent it back. I got a notification that they had received it. And the thing went through like 6 different checks before.
Absolutely. It's a very secure process.
Yes, sir. We out of there. We done run out of time. You know that.
Yes, sir.
You stole our time. All right, we're going out, so we're going to be back next week. So stay, look on your dial and find out where you're going to find us. We'll be back next week with Brainstorming America. We're out of here. Goodbye.